plundered by the government or by thieves. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagvatam, 7th canto, 13th chapter, and we just read shloka 35 and 36. So basically here in this particular section, Prahlad Maharaj is inquiring with this Brahman who's in Ajgar Vritti, which is a state where he, so he's in a state where he is just engaged in spiritual consciousness without actually moving about or doing any material activities. So Prahlad Maharaj is actually inquiring, and he is now telling all the various different types of gurus he has. So in the previous shloka, he is mentioning in 35 that there are two excellent spiritual masters who give us exemplary instruction regarding how to be satisfied by collecting only a little and how to stay in one place and not to move. One is the honeybee and the python. And then in this shloka, he's explaining that bumblebee accumulates honey, and people, materialist people, they are attracted by money, and for them money is the honey. And just like the bumblebee is basically uh, left without honey because the bumblebee is chased away and the honey is taken over by others. Similarly, money also is taken away by those who are hoarding and collecting money. And the point here is that if we maintain a little bit, whatever is needed, that's good enough. And if we try to hold too much, then it is always risk, because somebody or the other is always looking for the money and they'll come and take it away. And then Srimad Bhagavatam actually tells that government is going to become so bad as Kali Yuga advances that people sometimes will have to leave the cities and may have to go to forests and mountains and different places because they're going to take away all their land, money, everything like that. So, so these are some of the things shared here. I think if we keep reading, we are going to see how this Brahman is actually learning from so many ordinary things in nature. And we can, whenever we see those things, we can be reminded of Srimad Bhagavatam from that. So if devotees don't have anything to share, we'll continue to read.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
In the shloka, in text 35, he is saying that bee and python, he could just say that he has learned something, but he is saying that they are his spiritual master.
But why the python doesn't stay in one place? Why is a python?
So that's going to come in the next shloka, Mataji. But why is he saying that they are his spiritual masters?
So that's a good question. So why he's telling them spiritual master? Actually, he's not just telling them, he's going to tell spiritual master to so many such things. So all these are spiritual master could be someone from whom you are learning. It could be Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru. So when it is Shiksha Guru, means you're learning from them. You don't have to be initiated, but you can still learn. So you can learn from people, you can learn from circumstance, you can learn from objects. So like that is Shiksha Guru. So that is what he's basically mentioning, that he's learning from them. Does it make sense? Now he can say so many things, but this is how he's choosing to say.
Okay, Prabhuji.
This reminds me of a doha which I used to read when I was small. अजगर करे न चाकरी पंछी करे न काम दास मलूका कह गए सबके दाता राम.
Not
So,
very sure. Auntie, can you explain what it is?
अजगर करे न चाकरी, that जो पाइथन होता है अजगर, वो कभी किसी की नौकरी नहीं करता, उसको बैठे बैठे ही खाना मिल जाता है. पंछी करे न काम, चिड़िया भी कोई काम वाम थोड़ी करती है, उसको खाना मिलता ही है, कोई उगा रहा है तो खा रही है. तो जिसने दोहा लिखा उसका नाम मलूका होगा. तो भगवान का दास बता रहे हैं अपने आप को, दास मलूका कह गए सबके दाता राम, कि राम ही सबको देते हैं, किसी को कुछ काम करने की जरूरत नहीं है. बट ऑन द अदर हैंड देयर यूज्ड टू बी अनदर श्लोका जो कि हमको कहता था कि हमको काम जरूर करना चाहिए, जिसका सेकंड लाइन मुझे याद है, नहीं सुप्तस्य सिंहस्य प्रविशन्ति मुखे मृगा, कि अपना कुछ करोगे नहीं तो तुम्हें कोई आके खाना नहीं देगा, सोते हुए शेर के मुंह में अपने आप तो हिरन नहीं चला जाता, उसको उसका शिकार करके ही खाना पड़ता है. तो ये दोनों कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी वाले वो थे.
Very nice. Thank you, Auntie. Actually, when we hear something in Sanskrit or in shloka form, sometimes we think कि ये तो बिल्कुल मतलब वेद वाक्य ही है. But actually, संस्कृत में भी बड़े सारे प्रजल्प लिखे हुए हैं. प्रजल्प means those things which are not authorized, which are not scriptural, which are gossips. So many times there are a lot of nonsense written in Sanskrit also. So that is one way. When we hear something or some doha or something, we have to see who is the source, what is the uh, credential, and what is the credibility of that source. And then the other thing is, sometimes both the things are from different perspective. Now I'm sure with Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, this doubt may have been much more clearer to you and to others. At least it's clear to me. Only after coming in touch with Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, these kind of doubts always are there. So, like I was mentioning in the past, I read in my school, like I don't know what you call them. These are in English, and they are like one is too many cooks spoil the broth. Too many cooks spoil the broth, and then the other one was too many hands make work light. So I was thinking, and practically we read it like in the same day. So I'm like, so too many people is good or bad? Because too many cooks are spoiling the broth, but too many people are making work light. So of course, later on I realized what actually in practical life it means. It could be either, depending upon how they are being used, right? So similarly in our life, we have to work, but our goal for working should not be to get our daily bread, because Krishna is providing the huge elephant, a huge blue whale who is needing tons of food, and he is also providing a small ant. They don't have to worry, they will be provided by food. But we think, oh, we have to go and work only, then we'll be provided. But actually it's Krishna's arrangement. Even if we work hard, there is a chance that we may not get the food. Some problem may happen, who knows. Krishna can make arrangements like that. But we have to do our duty in the consciousness of what is needed for maintenance of the body and the soul, and for carrying out our spiritual services. If we are in that consciousness and doing our duties, then that's perfect. So that is how the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam clarifies us. And then when with the association or practical association or the devotees, seniors and stuff, we learn, we are able to get more in depth into how we can uh, do our daily activities, and at the same time not be focused and conscious only about getting material benefits, getting our daily bread and things like that. Does it make sense, Andy?
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else would like to share anything? Otherwise we'll keep reading. Okay, so next is 7:13:37. Any volunteers? Okay, I can read. Aniha paritushtatma
Aniha
Anihyah paritustatma
yadrachopantadaham
yadrachopanatadaham
yadnachopanatadaham
no chechaye bhav ahani
no
no
chittaye bhavahani
maha
mahahir iva sattvavan.
mahahire sattvasan.
Tatvasan.
Translation: I do not endeavor to get anything, but I am satisfied with whatever is received in its own way. If I do not get anything, I am patient and unagitated, like a python, and lie down in this way for many days. Purport: one should learn detachment from the bumblebees, for they collect drops of honey here and there and keep it in their honeycomb. But then someone comes and by force takes all the honey away, leaving the bumblebees with nothing. Therefore, one should learn from the bumblebee not to keep more money than one needs. Similarly, one should learn from the python to stay in one place for many, many days without food and then eat only if something comes in its way, in its own way. Thus, the learned Brahmin gave instructions gained from two creatures, namely bumblebee and the python. Okay. I think this is self-explanatory. We'll keep reading.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Any volunteers for next one? 7:13:38. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Yes, Roji.
क्वाचिद् अल्पं क्वाचिद् भूरि
Kvachidalpam
Alpam kvachit bhuri
भुञ्जे ननं स्वद अवस्थेतु वा
bhunje
bhunje anna
Chanam
swadu va
क्वाचिद् भूरि गुणोपेतं
kvachit
Kvachit
bhuri
tui gunopetam
upetam
गुणहीनमुत क्वचित्
guna
gunaheenam
gunaina mudat
kvachit
kvachit
श्रद्ध
Shraddha
श्रद्धयोपहृतं क्वापि
Kwapi Shraddhayopahitam
Sattvayopahitam
Kwapi
kwapi
कदाचिन्मना वर्जितं
kada
kadachit
Kachinmana
manavarjitam
Varjitam
भुजे भुक्त्वा भुजे भुक्त्वा कस्मिंश्चिद्
भुञ्जे भुक्तत्वाथ
Vakasmin
चेत्
Siddhitva Nakam
दिवानक्तं यदृच्छया
iva
वानक्तं यदृच्छया
Sometimes I eat a very small quantity and sometimes a great quantity. Sometimes the food is very palatable and sometimes it is stale. Sometimes prasad is offered with great respect. Sometimes food is given neglectfully. Sometimes I eat during the day and sometimes at night. Thus, I eat what is easily available.
Okay, I think we'll keep reading and then we'll discuss more towards the end. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Anyone would like to read the next one? 39? 7, 13, 39.
Prabhuji, I can try.
Yes, sure. Ma'am.
Chaumam dukulam ajinam
Shaum
Somam
kul
dukulam jinam
Ajinam
chiram vakalam meva
Iram
chiram
Vakta
vakta meva
vasenyadapi sampraptam
Vase
vasenantya samapraptam
dishtavuktushtadhiraham.
Deshta Bhukush.
ishta bhuktiraham.
To cover my body, I use whatever is available, whether it be linen, silk, cotton, bark, or deerskin, according to my destiny, and I am fully satisfied and unagitated. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Not read? Okay, Anand, you will read.
क्वचिच्चयेदरोपस्थे
Vachite
क्वचिच्चैतरोपस्थे
yataropasthe
न पर्णाश्मभस्मसु
तृणापर्णास्मभस्मसु
vasmasu
क्वचित् प्रसादपर्यङ्के
क्वचित् प्रसादपर्यङ्के
कशीपौ वा परेच्छया
कशिपो वा परेच्छया.
parichaya.
Translation: sometimes I lie on the surface of the earth, sometimes on leaves, grass, or stone, sometimes on a pile of ashes, or sometimes by the will of others, in a palace, on a first class bed with pillows. Purport: the learned Brahmana's description indicates different types of births, for one lies down according to one's body. Sometimes one takes birth as an animal and sometimes as a king. When he takes birth as an animal, he must lie down on the ground, and when he takes birth as a king or a very rich man, he is allowed to lie in first class rooms in huge palaces decorated with beds and other furniture. Such facilities are not available, however, at the sweet will of the living entity. Rather, they are available by the supreme will, Parichaya, or by the arrangement of Maya. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 18.61, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarvabhutani Yadarudhani Mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. The living entity, according to his material desires, receives different types of bodies, which are nothing but machines offered by material nature according to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the will of the Supreme, one must take different bodies with different means for lying down. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I think we'll read one or two more shlokas because when we complete this chapter actually, and if we can complete that's better actually, then we'll have some thoughts to share. Then we can discuss. Is that okay? छोटे छोटे श्लोक से हैं. I mean, the next one is very small, so we'll go to the next one.
Prabhuji, sorry, but can you just explain this one, and then we can go to the next one? Prabhuji, if you're okay.
It's a little complicated. That's why I'm saying that if we read the
Okay.
next
Okay.
few
Okay.
shlokas, connection will come. Because
Sure,
here,
Prabhuji.
basically, the different situations in which the material world puts us is being mentioned. So,
Okay, Prabhuji.
okay. You want to read the next one, Mataji?
can try, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Kvachit snato nili nilipatangah
Kvachit
क्वचित् स्नातो अनूलिपतङ्गाः
सुवासा स्रगव्य अलङ्कृतः
Vashas
वासास्रगव्यलडकृता
रथे sorry, रथे भाष्वैश्चरे क्वापि
रथे भाषवैश्चरे क्वापि
दिव्या
दिग्वासाग्रहवद्विभो
दिग्वासाग्रहद्भिः
विभो
विभो
Translation: O my Lord, sometime I bathe myself very nicely, smear sandalwood pulp all over my body, put on a flower garland, and dress in fine garments and ornaments. Then I travel like a king on the back of an elephant or on a chariot of horse. Sometimes, however, I travel naked like a person haunted by a ghost. Hare Krishna.
Okay, we'll go to the next one. 42. Any volunteers? Okay, I'll read. Naham ninde na chastami
Naham ninchastami
स्वभाव विषमं जनम
स्वभावक्षणां जन्म
एतेषां श्रेय आशेषा
एतेषां श्रेयाशासे
पुत्रैकार्थं महात्मनि.
उच्चैकार्यं महात्मने
Translation: different people are of different mentalities. Therefore, it is not my business either to praise them or to blaspheme them. I only desire their welfare, hoping that they will agree to become one with the super soul, the personality of Godhead Krishna. Purport: as soon as one comes to the platform of Bhakti Yoga, one understands fully that the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva is the goal of life. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlava. This is the instruction of all Vedic literatures. Vedescha Sarve Rahameva Vedya Vedanta Vedesha Sarve Rahameva Vedya Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Raja. There is no use in praising someone for material qualification, blaspheming him for material disqualification. In the material world, good and bad have no meaning, because if one is good, he may be elevated to higher planetary system, and if one is bad, he may be degraded to lower planetary system.
mental
People of different mentalities are sometimes elevated and sometimes degraded, but this is not the goal of life. Rather, the goal of life is to become free from degradation and take to Krishna consciousness. There was the person does not discriminate between that which is supposedly good and supposedly bad. Rather, he desires for everyone to be happy in Krishna consciousness, is the ultimate goal of life. Okay. So basically, what Brahman is mentioning is how different situations are putting the living entity in different uh, I mean, different situation in different arrangements of the material nature, karma, and all this is putting us in different situations. And depending upon how the situation is, we may react. And then here in the previous shlokas, and then here he's saying about specifically about praising or blaspheming, how this is not my business. So Prabhupada in that is mentioning about bhakti yoga, and he's coming to the essential principle that Krishna is the essence of everything. And Prabhupada is quoting Bhagavad Gita and mentioning how practicing bhakti yoga is highest. Otherwise, if we stay in this material world, if we do good things, maybe we'll go to higher planets. We do bad things, we'll go to lower planets. but it is still like being in the jail itself and being in a little better cell. Like for example, instead of being in a third class cell of the prison, we may be in the second class cell or the first class cell, but it's still not the highest, which is to come out of the prison house altogether. Just like if somebody is in the hospital, coming out of the hospital should be the goal, not that, oh, okay, I should have a private room, or I should have the AC room, or I should have, some more facilities in the room. No, the idea of being in the hospital is that you get better and you come home. So that is the idea of being in the material world, not to be in the higher planetary systems or middle planetary systems or lower planetary system, but actually to get out of it. So that's the point here mentioned. I think we have a couple more shlokas, so we can finish this chapter. Then maybe we can have more discussion.
Yes, Prabhuji, 3 more.
Yeah. Anybody? Any volunteers?
Should I read?
43. Yes, ma'am.
Vikalpam juhuyachitto
Vikasvam
Oh,
manasartha vibhrame
manasya vibrame
मनोवैकारके हुत्वा
मनोवैकारके हुत्वा
तन्मायायां जुहोत्यनु.
तन्मायायां जुहोत्यनु.
Translation: the mental concoction of discrimination between good and bad should be accepted as one unit and then invested in the mind, which should then be invested in the false ego. The false ego should be invested in the total material energy. This is the process of fighting false discrimination. Purport: this verse describes how a yogi can become free from material affection. Because of material attraction, a karmi cannot see himself. Jnanis can discriminate between matter and spirit, but the yogis, the best of whom are the bhakti yogis, want to return home back to Godhead. The karmis are completely in illusion. The jnanis are neither in illusion nor in positive knowledge, but the yogis, especially the bhakti yogis, are completely on the spiritual platform. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14.26, Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatityetam brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down under any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Thus, a devotee's position is secure. A devotee is at once elevated to the spiritual platform. Others, such as Jnanis and Hatha Yogis, can only gradually ascend to the spiritual platform by nullifying their material discrimination on the platform of psychology and nullifying the false ego, by which one thinks, I am this body, a product of matter. One must merge the false ego into the total material energy and merge the total material energy into the supreme energetic. This is the process of becoming free from material attraction. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You want to share anything, Auntie? Otherwise, we'll read couple more shlokas.
I think इसको तो आपको समझाना पड़ेगा, ये तो बहुत कम समझ में आया.
हाँ, ये थोड़ा टेक्निकल लैंग्वेज यहाँ पे यूज की है ज्यादा. बेसिकली इसको अगर देखा जाए सिंपल वर्ड्स में अगर समझें तो गुड और बैड भी जो होते हैं ना वो एक ही थाली के चट्टे बट्टे हैं एक तरह से, ठीक है ना। गुड और बैड, when we talk about good and bad, it is basically when I say I, people in the material world, when we talk about good and bad, basically what we are talking is material thing only. We say, oh, good means give some charity to some poor person, for example, right? So we don't take it as spiritual. We take good and bad. So from that perspective, I'm just sharing what I understood, because this is very complicated. I mean, I'm sure there are different layers of understanding to it. So how I'm understanding this is that mental concoction of discrimination between good and bad should be accepted as one unit. It means it's a material level when we say something good or bad here. And many times we don't go to the spiritual realm, but we decide this in our mental level only. And that is based upon how we consider this as our body. So this is false ego that I am relating to this body as as false ego, and then based upon that I may have a perception of something being good or something being bad. Like for example, I don't like a particular color, right? Or somebody else likes a particular level, very much in the mental level, and very much based upon the false ego and the false identity, right? It is not really connected to the spiritual realm. So that false identity has to go away, and the real identity has to come, and that real identity will come in connection with the Supreme. So that's what Prabhupada is explaining here, that there are different types of yogis, jnanis, bhakti yogi, karmi, and different things Prabhupada is mentioning. And then he's quoting from the Bhagavad Gita, the 14th chapter, famous shloka, Mam chayo vyavicharena bhakti yogena sevate saguna samvidite tan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. That one who is engaged in devotional service, who does not fall down under any circumstance, at once transcends the mode of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So Prabhupada is quoting from the Bhagavad Gita what is the quality of the person in the realm of of Brahman. He is not controlled by any of the modes of material nature. So he does not get entrapped into the false ego conception of this is good, this is bad, because this is something which is pleasing me or appealing to me. And devotee is the topmost yogi. He is much more than Gyan Yoga, Hatha Yoga, anything. So devotee is a pure devotee, basically, is being talked about here, is actually seeing from that perspective. So I'll just read this last paragraph after the shloka. Prabhupada is saying, others such as Jnanis and Hatha Yogis can only gradually ascend to spiritual platform by nullifying their material discrimination on the platform of psychology and nullifying the false ego by which one thinks I am this body, a product of matter. One must merge the false ego. And before this, Prabhupada is saying a devotee is at once elevated to the spiritual platform. So for a devotee, giving up the false identity is not as difficult as the Jnanis or the Hatha Yogis, because the devotee directly connects oneself to being the servant of Krishna. Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. That is the true ego. And because that true ego is very difficult to be accepted by those who are in the path, in other paths, other than being the being in loving devotional service of the Lord. So for them it becomes more difficult to understand their true identity and give up the false ego. So they may try to do something at a psychological level, but they cannot go to the extent of spiritual level, which a devotee can easily do, right? So that is what is basically mentioned when in the last two lines it said one must merge the false ego into the total material energy and merge the total material energy into the supreme energetic. Means that false ego has to come to the platform of true ego, where it has the connection with the supreme energetic, and this is the process of becoming free from material attraction. So that was my understanding. Anyone else would like to share? Anand Kishore, want to share anything? Krishna Shakti Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. This kind of just reminds me of why I became a devotee or wanted to try to become a devotee. Like before I was Taoist in Colombia. So they were talking about like the different paths. And so like within those different paths, basically you wake up in the morning, take cold showers, do different types of alchemy practices, and, you know, wake up the chakras. But ultimately, the best or the highest that I could reach in this lifetime is just by doing pious deeds. And pious deeds would get me possibly 2 planets ahead, and the whole universal system was like in the shape of like a skeletal spine. And so our universe was at the coccyx, like the lowest level. And so in order to get back to Godhead, you had to like jump all these different planetary systems. And I was like, oh, heck no. So like, you know, when you hear about devotional service and like the opportunity and like literally, you know, everybody, you know, a lot of these other spiritual paths, like they have the mode of goodness and they try to get you to the mode of goodness. But in order to get out of these realms in the psycho samsara, this is what we want, like, you know, to try to dovetail everything and actually merge everything, you know, not merge, not in the whatever Brahmajoyita way, but, you know, definitely just surrender everything over to Krishna so that everything's spiritualized and actually where it's more transcendental than you know. It reminds me when I went to Kumbh Mela also, and people are just like, oh, you can't be a bhakti yogi, you don't even know how to worship the sun, you don't even know how to wake up and greet the universe. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you know, if you read Prabhupada's books, like, you know, we don't have to do that. You know, just by doing what we do on a daily basis, it automatically puts us in like transcendental realm, and therefore we're getting out of the, you know, creating more karma and, you know, all that other kind of stuff. So we go towards the karma. So it's anyway, beautiful.
Hare Krishna. So this was how long ago when you were in touch with Hatha Yoga people?
Oh, this was Taoist. So this was, we were practicing Kundalini. It was a mix of Kundalini and something else. It was like a mixture of everything. But yeah, this was back in 98, 99. So right before I became a devotee, or tried to, yeah.
Very nice. And then did you go to Kumbh Mela?
2001. So
2001. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's amazing. So 2001, you were already chanting back then?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I started chanting in 99, but it was,
Nice.
so the Taoist helped me get off everything and come to Krishna consciousness.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else would like to share any thoughts? Otherwise, we'll keep moving. So Neela Mandi, does it give some insight?
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. So Krishna Shakti Mataji, you want to read the next one?
Sure. We're on 45?
Prabhuji, I just wanted to ask you a question.
Yes.
Sorry, Shakti Mataji. Excuse me.
Yes.
Prabhuji, in the shloka itself, there is a talk about chitta. Vikalpam jo chat chittau.
Correct.
So, what is chitta? It's not false ego. It's what is supposed to be.
So
So,
let me read. I didn't specifically, I'm not, Sanskrit scholar. So let me see what is mentioned here. Prabhupada mentions chittau in the fire of consciousness. So what is your question now?
No, I wasn't able to understand. Like, there is nowhere in the translation is any mention of the fire of the consciousness, but in synonym it's there, but I cannot relate it to the translation.
Yeah, so both the things are coming from Prabhupada only, both the synonyms and translation. So synonym chitta, chitta, chit basically, in normal understanding could be just consciousness also. Fire of consciousness basically means consciousness, nothing else. And the consciousness can get covered by illusory energy or the Maya, and that's why it becomes false identification, leads to false identification. So vikalpam juhuyat chittau, which means vikalpa means discrimination. Prabhupada is saying juhuyat, one should offer as oblations, chittau, in the fire of consciousness. So basically, what it means is that one has to discriminate. It's a like fancy way of saying that you have to offer discrimination to the fire of consciousness, which means that you have to discriminate. So how you have to discriminate? You have to discriminate in knowledge, and how you have to discriminate, like Prabhupada has explained here, between good and bad by keeping them as one unit, and then invest, like what we talked about already. Invest in understanding, not on the mental level, but actually understanding our real identification, the real ego. Chitta based fire of consciousness basically means in consciousness, just like yagya. Many times, like in the Bhagavad Gita, also 4th chapter, we saw many times this kind of a poetic way of mentioning that how one should offer oblations to the fire of this particular. They're comparing it with doing yagya. When we do yagya, we put samagri in the fire. So similarly here it is saying you have to discriminate basically. Does it make sense, Mate?
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, we'll go to the next one. So Krishna Mati, you want to share anything from the previous shloka? Bharati Mataji?
Was that on which one? Now I'm kind of confused where we are.
So
Okay.
we have done 43. We are now going to read 44.
Okay. Yep. No, that sounds good. I love how you guys are writing everything down. It's great. Let's see. Atmano bhuto tamayam. Did we do this one?
We have to do. You are on the right one.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Atman. Okay. Atmanu bhuto tamayam.
Atmanubhutau tamaya
Juhuyat satyat muni.
Juhyat satya muni
Tato niriho viramet.
tato niriho viramet
Vanubhuti atmani stitaha.
swanubhuti atmani stitaha.
A learned, thoughtful person must realize the material existence is illusion. This is possible only by self-realization. A self-realized person who has actually seen the truth should retire from all material activity being situated in self-realization. Purport. By an analytical study of the entire constitution of the body, one can surely come to the conclusion that the soul is different from all the body's material constituents, such as earth, water, fire, air. Thus, the difference between the body and soul can be realized by a person who is thoughtful, manasi or muni. And after this realization of the individual spirit soul, one can very easily understand the supreme spirit soul. If one thus realizes that the individual soul is subordinate to the supreme soul, supreme spirit soul, he achieves self-realization. As explained in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there are two souls within the body. The body is called kshetra, and there are two kshetra yas, or occupants of the body, namely the super soul, Paramatma, and the individual soul. The super soul and the individual soul are like two birds sitting on the same tree, the material body. One bird, the individual, forgetful bird, is eating the fruit of the tree, not caring for the instructions of the other bird, which is only a witness to the activities of the first bird, who is his friend. When the forgetful bird comes to understand the supreme friend who is always with him in care and trying to give him guidance in different bodies, he takes shelter of the lotus feet of the supreme bird. As explained in the yoga process, Dhyana vastita gatena manasa prasyanti yam yogina. When one actually becomes a perfect yogi by meditation, he can see the supreme friend and surrender unto him. This is the beginning of bhakti yoga, or actual life in Krishna consciousness. Okay. Yes, okay, so, all right, so learned person is thoughtful. Thoughtful person must realize the material existence is illusion. This is possible only by self-realization. Self-realized person who has actually seen the truth should retire from all material activities, being situated in self-realization. So yes, definitely we see this analogy of the bird in the bird cage. Together we have two birds, and oftentimes we're only focusing on one bird until we actually wake up and start connecting with the supreme bird, Krishna. We're not going to be able to advance in any way. And that's what you see living entities doing day in and day out. They're focusing on the external, focusing on things that are related to them, friends, family, job, work, everything else, but are they connecting with the actual soul and the supreme soul? And those are the most important things. So this verse is a nice reminder of that. And yes, yeah, and it's very important to come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter, you know, people get into the different types of elements, but ultimately we need to tap into the supreme being. So love to hear other people's reflections.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for sharing and for reading.
I have a question. Just can you please explain me those two word thing? I didn't quite understand it.
Which two words, Mataji?
These two words that they are talking about it.
Words basically means Atma and Paramatma. So the two words are the Atma and the Paramatma. Atma is who we are, and Paramatma is always sitting next to us. The example is given that in Katha Upanishad, and actually there are two Upanishads where this same example comes, that uh, just like Supreme Soul is seated in this body of ours, there is an Atma and Paramatma. This is compared to a tree in which two birds are sitting. One bird is the Atma and the other is the Paramatma. The Paramatma is just watching the Atma, and the Atma, which is like a bird, eating the fruits. Eating fruits means eating the results of all the karmas we have performed in the past. And we are not paying attention to the Paramatma at all. And at the time when we take to self-realization, take to this process of Krishna consciousness or other processes of yoga, and then connect to the Supreme, then that is when our spiritual life begins. That is when we have started to see the Paramatma within the heart. That is like a bird who was just busy eating the fruit. Now start watching towards the true friend of this bird, which is the Paramatma. Does it make sense?
Yeah, very nice.
Thank you, Mata. Okay. So anybody else wants to add anything to this? Okay, we'll go to the next one quickly. I think we can complete this chapter today. Any volunteer who would like to read the next shloka, Sanskrit?
Prabhu, can I try 45
Yes,
number?
Mataji. Yes, 45, please.
Atmavrittam Mayetatte.
Mataji, 45.
45 only.
So,
Swatmavrittam Mayetatte.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Suguptamapi Varnitam.
सुगुप्तम् अपि वर्णितम्
Varnitam
Vyapetam Lokashastrabhyam.
व्यापितं लोकशास्त्राभ्याम्
Bhavanni Bhagavat Param.
भवन्ति भगवत्परम्.
Prahlad Maharaj, you are certainly a self-realized soul and a devotee of the Supreme Lord. You do not care for public opinion or so-called scripture. For this reason, I have described to you without hesitation the history of the self-realization purpose. A person who is actually a devotee of Krishna does not care about so-called public opinion and Vedic or philosophical literature. Prahlad Maharaj, who is such a devotee, always defied the false instruction of his father and the so-called teachers who were appointed to teach him. Instead, he simply followed the instruction of Narad Muni, his guru, and thus he always remained a stalwart devotee. This is the nature of an intelligent devotee. The Srimad Bhagvatam instructs, Yajnu Sankirtana Prayara Yajnatihi Sumedasa. One who is actually very intelligent must join the Krishna consciousness movement, realize his own self as an eternal servant of Krishna, and thus practice constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, you want to share?
Here, in whole chapter, they showed that Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu, the extreme level they showed. They are epidemic of their principle. The Hiranyakashipu was a mystic yogi, learned scholar, but he doesn't have any devotion except the devotion. He doesn't have any devotion for the God. He didn't like any pious people. He's telling his ministry that go and find out the people in the country that who is doing the pious activity, bring him, kill them, otherwise let them surrender. And opposite is the Prahlad. Prahlad is giving to respect to all living being, and he's going his world tour. Who Prahlad Maharaj with his minister, and he's searching for the Krishna in all, in wherever he's get the devotee, he's talking with them. He's taking the lesson from them. He's taking the instruction from them. Actually, the Prahlad Maharaj is a senior devotee compared to this Avdhuta Brahman, but he's explaining whatever the Avdhuta Brahman is explaining, the Prahlad Maharaj is listening. Like a Prabhupada is telling his own disciple, give the class. And Prabhupada is appreciating their class. If they're telling the, I don't know, but is telling, I heard like that from my Guru Maharaj lecture. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, very nice, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so this purport, Prabhupada quotes a very, very important shloka here from the Srimad Bhagvatam. Krishna Varnam Tvisa Akrishnam Sango Panga Saparshanam Yagyai Sankirtan Jai Yajanti Hi Sumedha. Medha means intelligent. Sumedha means very intelligent, right? So Sumedha. Those who are very, very intelligent in this age of Kali Yuga, they join Yagyaya Sankirtan Prayaya. Sankirtan Yagya, they join. And who is leading this? Krishna is leading this. Krishna comes in the Kali Yuga, but he's a Krishna. A Krishna means he's not black. Krishna Varanam Twisa a Krishnam Sango. And along with him, what all? He's coming, all his parshads are coming. All his parshads, his associates. So he's leading this Sankirtan movement. So Lord Chaitanya's uh, advent is already predicted in Srimad Bhagvatam. Even though Srimad Bhagavatam was written 5,000 years ago, but Lord Chaitanya appeared only 500 years ago, but it was already predicted here. So this is a very important shloka. And Mataji nicely explained that how Prahlad Maharaj even is more advanced devotee, but he's simply wanting to see, get association of other devotees and listening from this Avadut Brahman. Okay, so we'll go to the next last shloka of this chapter, or anybody else wants to share anything before we go forward? Okay, we'll go next. I'll quickly read it.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Shri Narad Vacha
Sri Narad Vacha
Narada Vacha
Dharmam Paramahamsyam Vai
Dharmam Paramam Samvai
Mune Shrutva Sureshwaraha
Muni Shrutva Shureshwara
Ujjayetva Tata Prita
Pujyai Tata Prita
Amantrya Parayayaugraham.
Amantrya Praryayugraham.
Translation. Narad Muni continued, after Prahlad Maharaj, the king of demons, heard these instructions from the saint, he understood the occupational duties of a perfect person, Paramhamsa. Thus, he duly worshipped the saint, took his permission, and then left for his own home. Purport. As quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 8.128, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi Shudra Kenenai Yei Krishna Tattvavita Sei Guru Hoy. Very important shloka. A guru or spiritual master can be anyone who is well conversant with the signs of Krishna. Therefore, although Prahlad Maharaj was a grihastha ruling over the demons, he was a Paramahamsa, the best of human beings. And thus, he is our guru. In the list of gurus or authorities, Prahlad Maharaj's name is therefore mentioned. Swayambhur Narada Shambhu Komar Kapilo Manu Prahlado Janako Bhishmo Balir Vayasakir Vayam. The conclusion is that a Paramahamsa is an exalted devotee, Bhagavat Priya, such a Paramahamsa may be in any stage of life, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Manprastha, Sannyas, and be equally liberated and exalted. Thus ends the Bhaktisiddhanta purport for 7th canto, 13th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Behavior of a Perfect Person. So basically in this last few shlokas which we read today, first the Brahman is speaking confusing words, that sometimes I do this, sometimes I do that, sometimes I do that. Basically what he's saying is that because of the forces of the modes of material nature, we come across different situations where the living entity has to go through such situations that sometimes they will eat nicely, sometimes they will not get anything to eat, sometimes they are living nicely, comfortably, sometimes not so comfortably, and like that life is going on. And he's basically telling that how he is staying at one place, not trying to move too much for his food, which is the Ajgar Vritti. You know, Ajgar is a huge snake, python, very, very big. So he doesn't walk too fast or anything. Just basically sometimes it seems like it's just staying at one place, not even moving. And uh, this Brahman is also appearing to be like that. And then we heard basically ultimately how different shlokas were mentioned, recommending to coming to the platform of self-realization, connecting our true ego, giving up the false ego, merging into the supreme, which means getting the consciousness uh, of being the servant of Krishna, Jivera Swaruphoy Krishnera Nityadas, and engaging in that way. And Prahlad Maharaj, he is very gratefully accepting, and the Brahman is also glorifying him, and that is how he worships, and then he leaves. And Prabhupada is mentioning here in the quote that in the purport of the last shloka, that it doesn't matter who the other person is, whether he is Vipra, means a great Brahman, Nyasi, maybe a sannyasi, or even a Shudra, a lowest category of person. Uh, doesn't matter. But what matters is what kind of activities that person is performing, what is the kind of values he's holding sacred within his heart, and how he is having the knowledge of Krishna Tattva. If he has the knowledge of Krishna Tattva, then such person can be accepted as Guru. If he is practically applying this knowledge in his own life and showing us by his own example, then such person can be accepted as Guru, no matter what his background was. It is recommended that we don't ask the background of a sadhu. A sadhu may have been from whatever family, dog eater's family or anything, but now he has given up that life and now taken to Krishna consciousness. So that is what matters. So that is the emphasis of the scriptures. And then it does not matter whether one is whatever ashram, grihastha, brahmachari, vanprastha, sannyas, because so many of the mahajans, they were not all sannyasis, but they were great devotees. So even though we may be in grihastha life, but still there's a lot of hope and opportunity for us to become um, uh, very, very serious and attain the goal of life. Okay, so I would end here. Anybody else would like to share anything?
Prabhuji, I would like to ask a question.
Yes, Mataji.
Why did we read this whole chapter? When we started this whole chapter, the Prahlad Maharaj had a question because he saw a very healthy sannyasi lying in one place. That's what he asked question about, like, why are you lying over here? And this was uh, Anisha Mataji's question also, that we should not comment on the physical state. And whole thing that sannyasi explained, sage explained everything. He never explained why he was such a big, healthy person.
Yeah, I think that was already answered by Prahlad Maharaj, if I remember correctly. Prahlad Maharaj said that this is definitely by Supreme Lord's arrangement that you are being provided for whatever necessity is there. We'll have to go back and read a little. But my understanding from before is that Prahlad Maharaj was the one who himself gave the answer actually.
Yeah, but then why was he lying down like that?
So there, Prabhupada also mentions in the purport, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Bhujena Bhujai. That sometimes one cannot understand what is the a reason for a great devotee to act in a particular way. So we should not judge the other person like that. So what we have to do is learn the lessons which he is giving. So he is in a Ajgar Vritti. This is a stage of um consciousness where one person is just fixed and he's meditating on the Supreme Lord. He doesn't move around, walk around, do anything, but just he's focused on meditating on the Supreme Lord. And therefore this person is usually expected to be not very uh, in good physique. Is supposed to be very thin, but he was appearing quite good. So that was the situation he was in. I'm just actually reading and seeing if I can find the exact shloka to answer your question.
Prabhuji, I actually found the Prahlad Maharaj's question. It's text 18. It says, "O Brahmana, fully in knowledge of transcendence, you have nothing to do and therefore you are lying down." So it is also understood that you have no money for sense enjoyment. How then has your body become so fat? Under the circumstances, if you do not consider my question impudent, kindly explain how this has happened. So nowhere he is saying that Krishna is giving him things. And then he is adding in 19th, your honor appears learned, expert and intelligent in every way. You can speak very well, saying things that are pleasing to the heart. You see that people in general are engaged in fruitive activities, yet you are lying here inactive. So nowhere Prahlad Maharaj is also telling that Krishna is supporting you being fat and everything.
Yeah, I'll have to read this again and I will answer a question maybe in a day or two. Okay.
I actually read this 2 or 3 times, like maybe I missed something. Where is this answered? Like, why is he fat? But I couldn't find.
This is a good question. Tomorrow we have Yugal Kishore Prabhu coming actually for Bhagavatam installation. So we can ask him also. So that will be a nice question. Bharti Mataji should ask this question tomorrow.
No, Prabhuji, I will not ask. People who are thin should ask.
So then
Bharti Mataji, you are thin now.
No,
Mataji, you are
Mataji.
better than me. So I think you should ask better.
Deepika
And
Mataji should ask. Tarachand Prabhu should ask. They are the thinnest people in the group.
yes,
Bharti
yes.
Mataji, you are thin now.
No, Mataji, I am not thin.
Actually, this is the spiritual potency Krishna is providing. Whoever is getting appears to be having fat, they are all. See, that's what Prahlad Maharaj. I'll find out where Prahlad Maharaj says. If it's not in the translation, it is there in the purport. So I will search and let you know. Okay, anyone else wants to answer Bharti Mataji's wonderful question? Krishna Shakti Mataji or Anandi Radha Mataji or Rakshita Mataji, Suresh Prabhu.
I look forward to the answer. Like you guys cracking it up at the beginning of the chapter and it's continuing to the end. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Archana Mataji maybe can answer. She has read Bhagavatam many times. Okay, I think we'll conclude for today and we'll get together tomorrow. So tomorrow Yugal Kishore Prabhu is going to join us at 8 o'clock. So can we start a little early, like 7:45? So then we can do 7:45 to 8. We can do our 15 chapter Bhagavad Gita, and then we can do 8 o'clock to 9 this conference.
Okay, Prabhuji, we can do.
Okay. Thank you so much, all the devotees, for joining. Very grateful to you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpataruvasya kripa sindhubhya vacha. Patitanam pavanebhyo. Hare Krishna.